Welcome to That's What She Said, where we'll spill the tea on women empowerment in the Great Lakes Bay region with your host, Christiana Malacara.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to That's What She Said with me, Christiana Malacara. We are spilling the tea on women empowerment. We are just thrilled that you're here. Once again, investing in yourself and hopefully sharing and spreading all of these, words of wisdom with other women in the region. Whoa, try to say that 3 times fast. Thank you so much for tuning in to That's What She Said. There are several ways to tune in. Thursdays, 1:30 on social media. Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. Sundays at 6 p.m. And then on YouTube, they are archived. All of our episodes are archived there, which we are approaching our 1 year shortly. So this is pretty exciting. There's quite a collection when you search That's What She Said with Christiana Malacara. And then obviously anywhere that you can tune into your favorite podcast, we will be there too. But I want to kind of talk a little bit about my dad. I know I normally don't talk about my parents too much on That's What She Said. I'm not really sure why, but they've been a huge influence to me and helped empower me in the several ways that they have. But my dad had come over to my home fairly recently, which he always does, but he had come over and he was talking to me and, pulling things out of my refrigerator and, chatting and talking about the yard. And he, it kind of set me back. It took me a moment. And I remembered when my dad was leaving, I remember him saying to me when I was younger, he said, I can show you who you are if you show me your closest 4 friends. And I don't remember exactly why that popped in my head at that moment. And I don't even remember why when I was in high school that my dad did mention that to me. It just kind of one of those things where it whispered into my ear while he was walking through my front door to his car. And it just hit me like, whoa, that still holds true. And I think all of us need that reminder of, the people that you surround yourself with are essentially reflecting you, because we take a little bit from everyone, right? We're taking a little bit of this person pours into me, a little bit of this person pours into me. And then, throughout our relationship with our friends, our family, our colleagues, we're shaped into a different person. If that is 4 people or 40 people, if that is just 4 months or 4 years, those people are investing into us as much as we're investing into them, and we're reshaping each other. So as you move through your week, please take a moment to, one, if you have the blessing to be able to call or text your dad, please do it. Please do it. But most importantly, take a moment to reflect on that. Who are these 40 people in my life who have shaped me in the past and are shaping me in the future? And is this the shape that I want to be? Is this someone that I want in my life? Do I want this person to influence me? And just take a moment to sit back and think about that. So thank you, dear old dad. Without further ado, I have an awesome guest here. She is very inspirational and very cheerful. When I see her, she just has a big smile on her face, and she's always so stylish. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Megan Koch. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Thanks for coming in today.
Yes, of course. Thanks for having me.
I know we have connected in the past and just kind of crossed paths if it's a press release or an email or a breakfast, but we've never sat down to actually talk to each other.
I know. I don't know why, but here we are.
It's changed, right?
Yes.
So I want to say thank you. Thanks for taking the time to come on in, and we know you are a busy woman, so I appreciate it.
Of course.
So we have Megan Koch with us today. Megan, can you introduce yourself to the community? How might the community know you?
Community likely knows me through Studio 23. I am the executive director there. I've been there for around 2.5 years. I started there in September of 2022. And so I've been the leader of that organization for a while now. And so that's really, I think, how most people probably know me.
Where is it located? Where is Studio 23 located?
We are located in downtown Bay City, right next to Winona Park, right in the Jennison condo buildings. We're at the bottom 2 floors.
Do you enjoy it?
I do, of course. I mean, we're surrounded by art every day. We have artists in the building all the time. It's a beautiful space to work in. I'm very blessed.
What did you do just before this?
So I graduated with my master's in art history in May of 22. So I had the summer in between graduating and getting the job. And I worked at the Great Lakes Loons actually as a suite server. My brother worked there. And it was a good little like summertime gig. It was fun, got to meet a lot of people. And then this opportunity came about, and through the grapevine, it got to me. And, you know, I thought that there was no chance in me getting it, but why? And I did. And a month later I was starting. So
Wow.
yeah.
I didn't know it happened that way. I didn't know it went through that route.
Yeah. So Jamie Forbes, who's prevalent in the community as well, Jamie Forbes sent the job posting to her friend and my friend Emily, who lives down in Detroit. And then Emily shared it with me. So it had to make its way to Detroit to come back.
Wow.
Yes.
So, and you mentioned Jesse. Who is Jesse?
Jesse is my boyfriend, Jesse Martinez.
Cute.
Yes.
I know Jesse.
Yes.
I love Jesse. Okay.
Yes.
So you graduated
Mm-hmm.
your master's degree.
Yes.
Where'd you graduate
Yes.
from?
I got my master's at Wayne State. Graduated in May of 22. I started in the midst of COVID though. So I started my degree, ended my bachelor's degree, and started my master's degree during COVID. So I graduated in May of 2020 and then started my master's in August of 2020, all online through Wayne State. So I graduated from Wayne with only going to campus once.
Really?
Yeah, a couple
Wow.
times. I returned library books, but yeah, that was it.
You probably could have mailed those in too.
Probably.
Okay, we're going to circle back to college life.
Yeah.
But you graduated college, master's degree, and then you're like, I'm going to go work at the Loons. That's going to be the summer gig. So when you left and graduated with your master's, what was your ambition though? I mean, is it safe to say it wasn't the Loons baseball team?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Absolutely. I really didn't know. I mean, there's not many routes with art history, right? There's teaching and there's gallery are like the two main avenues. And I saw myself teaching, but for teaching, you really have to have your PhD nowadays. So I wasn't sure. I thought, maybe I'd go on to get my PhD. Maybe I'd find something, and found something with the studio. Never thought I would have, but
close to home too.
Yeah, very.
Wow.
And that's another thing that I didn't anticipate finding is an artsy job close to home. Didn't have to move to, Grand Rapids, Lansing, Detroit area. I was able to stay in the Great Lakes Bay region.
Were you willing to venture out to bigger cities to get a job?
I think if it came down to it, yes. But I really wanted to stay close to home. Everyone that I hold dear is here. So I didn't want to have to move if I didn't need to.
That's valid.
Mm-hmm.
So here's a fun fact. I don't know if our listeners know this, but my original major was art history when I went to school.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, we've got a lot to talk about.
Sometimes I find myself I was just at the Flint Institute of Art, and I was there with a small group of people, and I'm like, hey, come over here. Let me tell you about this. And then they're just looking at me, and I was like, oh, and look, here's that. And so we're bouncing around this museum, and it was just one of those things that get you excited, right?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
But it's not everybody's cup of tea.
If you can instill that little bit of passion, though, into someone else, you've done your job.
And it's those fun facts that really keep you going. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Another fun thing that I love about art history is like artistic lineages, like who was that person inspired by and how can you pick that out in their work? That's another thing I really love to like pick,
Oh, I'm going to have to think about that one.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. I was, now we're on this whole side venture caveat here. I was recently, I don't know if it was reading, watching, or listening to something about Pablo Picasso.
Okay.
And he, obviously the father of Cubism and abstract art. But he ended up playing with cameras and light and the theory of a long exposure lens.
Okay.
and painting with light. I did air quotes for those who are just listening. Painting with light. And it was very interesting to learn about that. And then, of course, I turn around and I'm telling, someone who's sitting next to me, I was like, hey, I'm going to share this. It was a video. I'm going to share this video with you. And I was like, meh. It just went down. So how is it that you got so inspired to learn about art history? It is so niche.
It is. So I went to SVSU for my undergrad, and I went in as a special education major, switched to undecided, switched to business management, failed a math class. So I went to academic advising, and they helped me pinpoint graphic design as a potential for me. So I started that. Found out I really like to work with my hands rather than on a computer. So I switched to fine art, and that's what got me into art history. So it took a lot of major changes to pinpoint it to art history. But Michelle Randall at SVSU had a passion for the Italian Renaissance.
Mm-hmm.
And although that is not my passion, her passion for art history spewed into me. I absolutely fell in love with it. And I ended up graduating with a history degree instead of art history. SVSU doesn't have an art history, unfortunately. But yeah, history. And then I minored in art and graphic design.
So you still went with a graphic design?
A minor. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
All right.
I had enough classes where I was like, finish it off.
Meg's like, why not tack that on?
Yeah.
We're already here.
Mm-hmm.
But you said you started going to college thinking you were going to teach special education?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where did that come from?
I have no idea. Other than I've always had a heart for special needs. Right now with the studio, actually, we have our accessibility exhibit going, and it is geared towards those who have visual impairments and really meant to, it really upholds our mission of making the arts relevant and accessible to all. So those that are visually impaired can enjoy an art gallery. Those who are, sensory sensitive can enjoy an art museum with the lights dimmed and lamps on, and having earplugs available to them, and having core boards for those that can't communicate. So we're really trying to create that inclusive environment. So it's kind of like a mashup of that, now that you say that. But yeah, I've always just had the heart for it.
Is this a new initiative since you've been on board?
Yeah. So the first week that I started at the studio, our curator, Amy, came up to me, and we had a one-on-one, and we chatted, and she said that a member of ours brought up this idea of her two daughters having visual impairments. Have we ever thought about doing an exhibit geared towards them? And I said, well, we have to now. That's a great idea. And so the exhibit has been like 2.5 years in the works. So since I started, we've been working on it, and I'm so proud of how it has come out. It's been incredible.
How do you show artwork to someone who's visually impaired?
You make it tactile, you make it touchable. So we did a nationwide call to artists, and we got artists from all across the country and even out of the country to send in artwork. And some local artists also created things very special for the exhibit to be touched. And it just creates that tactile. We have braille labels, different textures on everything, some smooth, some rougher. A local artist, Mark Petrowski, made this big sculpture, and he made it white, which is so unlike him. If you know him, his work is full of color and vibrancy, and he made it white. And the point is for everyone to touch it and see the dirt and the grime that's on everyone's hands. So it's a very, very different type of exhibit. If you haven't seen it yet, check it out.
Wow. Okay, This is really fascinating to me because it's so. If you go to a museum, any type of museum, there's these little signs that say, do not touch. Some of them even say, do not photograph.
Right.
Or no video. Right. So breaking this barrier essentially of saying, we want you to come in and touch this artwork. This is stemmed from something that you saw in the community as a need.
Absolutely.
And let's just take a step back. When you initially were like, I want to go to college, I want to go to school, I want to learn and help special needs because, you just said like, I just have a big heart for this population. It sounds like it's still kind of spilled over into what you're currently doing.
Yeah. And I did not make that connection until now. So thank you for that.
So you get this job, you're at Studio 23, 2.5 years ago. And this is like, I mean, I'm going to say it. This is like a big girl job. Like, this is like boss babe to the max here, executive director, and you're fresh out of college.
Yeah,
How did that make you feel?
Intimidating. I was so intimidated. Tara was at the studio before me, you know Tara well, and so it was big shoes to fill, and it was incredibly nerve-wracking, but you know I dove head first. I didn't know what a nonprofit was at the time, and I learned a lot in that first 6 months to a year, and then I think I finally found my footing about a year in, and I couldn't love it more. I couldn't love the job more. It's so satisfying and fulfilling to see everything.
What were some of the barriers that you had to go through while you, like you said, you didn't even know what a nonprofit was. You're just like, okay, I'm gonna apply and see what happens. Well, bam, here you go, you got it.
Surprise.
Unpack that a little bit, because I know that and I'm gonna say it, there's imposter syndrome sometimes, especially in women, when we're integrated into something that's like, I'm planned to do this, but now we're actually here. Like, can you unpack some of those early experiences that you may have had?
Yeah, and to be completely transparent, a lot of it is a blur. The first 6 months to a year, there was so much to learn and so much that I had to figure out that it was nearly impossible to not feel that imposter syndrome a little bit, and take what was already established at the studio and just keep doing that, because it was working, but I really wanted to put my own spin on things and put my immerse myself into the studio and my ideas. And like I said, about a year and a half in, that's when I felt like I could really start doing that, and I felt a lot more confident. I had a lot of people that backed me up, and I learned from so many amazing people in the community that supported my visions. So yeah. Support 100%.
So who were a few of those people that did support you during that time?
Meg Koch was one of the first community members that I met at an eye-opener breakfast the month after I started, and she and I just latched right away, and we are still besties, and I'm so grateful for her and her support. Maggie Dwan is another one who is always there for an ear and will help with ideas and help however she can. And then of course, our studio staff and board and, my parents and my support system and that, but community wise, Marlena, Maggie, they're incredible.
Okay. So you mentioned your parents. I started out the conversation by talking about my dad.
Yeah.
So a little bit of reflection here. When I said, hey, mom and dad, I got accepted into this art school. What did your parents say? Just kind of comparing here. Let's go down this avenue for the next few minutes here.
Yeah. So when I said that I wanted to get my master's in art history, I was working at Dow Chemical. And so you can imagine how my coworkers were like, you're going into what? And it took a lot of convincing, but I remember when I got my job at the studio, I said, don't tell people with art degrees that they can't get a job and be successful, because it's so true. If you can do it in the Great Lakes Bay region, it happens everywhere. So they were supportive, but my dad works at Dow and he has a great career. And so he's like, you want to go to art school? Are you sure?
What did he want you to study? And I'll tell you what my dad wanted me to study.
He wanted me to be a nurse anesthetist or an engineer. Neither of which I could do. My brain does not operate that way.
Ditto. My dad wanted me to be a dentist.
Okay.
For the longest time, he was like dentist. And I ended up in college. I was like, you know what? Let's just try to take a medical class. Took a medical class, the only class I failed. And I was trying really hard. And I was like, you know what? I gave it a shot.
Yep.
But same. My brain just doesn't work that way for some reason. It just
No. I really don't think I could do healthcare. The more I am in that space for different reasons, the more I'm like, ooh, I could not do this every day.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
No.
Mm-mm.
But But thank you for the encouragement, Dad.
Yes, like thank you for thinking that I could do those things, but I can't.
So when you were in school,
Mhm.
were your parents encouraging in that process when you were taking the classes throughout COVID?
Oh yeah. It was, I mean, it was hard, but in comparison, my brother is actually getting his PhD hybrid right now, for physical therapy. And let me tell you, his stuff is way harder than mine was. So I can't even complain anymore that it was hard because he is grinding like nothing I've ever seen.
Physical therapy is tough stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, I guess Dad did get his wish and
He
somebody's in the
did.
medical field.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
It's just the baby.
Oh, jeez.
Yes.
So, before we cut to our next break here,
Mhm.
can you, Meg, we have Meg Koch with us, and she is the director out at Studio 23. Can you remind us where Studio 23 is, address, and a little bit, just a sentence or two about the place?
Yeah, so Studio 23 is located in downtown Bay City, Michigan. We are at 901 North Water Street, nestled in between Winona Park and Painterly Pottery. And we are a visual art center. We are dedicated to making the visual arts relevant and accessible to all.
And when are you open?
We are open Tuesday through Saturday, 11 to 6.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
All
come
right.
check us out.
I mean, I need to make my way down there soon. So if anybody wants to go, hit me up. So stay tuned. We have Meg Koch with us, and we will be right back to dive in a little deeper onto her story, her mission, and who are the friends she surrounds herself with. So we will see you shortly.
That's What She Said with Christiana Malacara is back. Now let's spill the tea.
And we're back to the second half of That's What She Said. We are here with Megan Koch. She told me to call her Meg, so we're friends now. Well, thanks, Meg. Thanks for being here. Thank you for taking the time out of your day. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you and you
Thanks.
inviting me to be on this. This is so special.
Of course, thank you. So we have to talk about women empowerment. Okay, that's the whole basis of the show. Is how is it that we are one, who poured into us, and then two, how are we creating that ripple effect and pouring into other people? So I happen to go. Meg works at Studio 23. It's an art gallery. They also have classes down in Bay City, Michigan. And I happened to go on the website and I looked under staff, and it's like, whoa, there's a whole team of women here. Is there a male on the staff?
Yes, we have a maintenance person.
Cool.
His name is Greg. He is the best. He
Cool.
keeps us afloat.
I'll say literally the heartbeat. Yeah.
Yes. Anything that we break, he fixes without much complaint, thankfully. Thanks, Greg. But yeah, the rest of there's five of us girls and Greg.
5 girls and Greg. Okay, so having a team of women, essentially, what is that dynamic in the work environment for you?
I think, I mean, you just said it, but I think it's incredibly empowering. I mean, I think all of us support each other. We all operate so differently, but we know we all work together as a team so well that it works beautifully. I think people will underestimate us a lot of times because we're also younger. All of us full time are under the age of 40. So there's a lot of hesitation, or I don't know what the right word is. But we run into that a lot. We run into, people not thinking that we can do something because we're younger or we're not experienced enough, or just in general that we're women.
Seasoned and not what? Yeah, I hear you. You're not seasoned in it.
Seasoned is a great word. Yeah, great way to put it.
Yeah. I always come across the concept of when I go to something that's like an art fundraiser, fundraiser. the crowd is usually more seasoned than myself.
Mm-hmm.
And those that population tends to be the investors, right?
Absolutely.
But then when you look on the opposite end of like who's bringing in new artwork, who are the artists that we're featuring, who do we want to be as the new faces coming in? That is that younger population who's the creators, which is really fascinating to me because it's not always that you have a seasoned artist currently showing work.
For sure.
They've already gone through that process. So, where was I going with this? So what is something that I guess you see that can help blend those two populations together from your perspective?
So since starting at the studio in 2022, we have been on a mission as us staff to get younger people into the space. We have a plethora of donors who are more seasoned and older, and we are so appreciative of them, and we love them, and we don't want them to go anywhere, but eventually they will go somewhere. And what do we do then? So we're trying to almost, have a bench of people who are supporting us now while they can and what they can, but to prepare the studio and prepare them to support us as we all age, the organization and the supporters.
Yeah. The keyword support there.
Yeah.
So within the staff, those like really awesome women staff, and Greg, and the support coming from, investors and donors. What is it that you see is really empowering you to get you to the next day? Because I'm sure there's challenging moments as an executive director of a nonprofit, let alone a director of a nonprofit of art.
Yeah.
Because we have an entire population of people that don't really see that art is necessary. We were talking about COVID just a short minute ago. COVID wasn't, it kind of showed people like what is quote essential and what isn't, right? Which was sometimes completely skewed, right? But
Absolutely.
art was one of those things that were not essential, yet we were home creating things, which is this wild dynamic, right? So,
yes.
Okay, where was my question going again? Because my mind is literally racing. I'm just so excited to have another creative in the room. So what is something that you see that makes art and creating things essential?
I think we are in such a logical and almost like a survivalist mode right now with everything going on that we are using our left brain almost 100% of the time. We have to utilize that right side of our brain. And in order to do that, we have to create, we have to be creative. And so whether that is, literally doing a craft or cooking or something like that for fun, it just relieves that one half of the brain that's the powerhouse that does the work most of the time. I think once someone as an adult does that again, they feel that almost relief or breath of fresh air that creating can do for someone. And then it hopefully has a ripple effect and continues.
So do you create artwork?
Rarely. Being an art historian, I love to read and study art and, go to museums and such, but to do art, not super often, but I do like to find things that bring me joy every now and then. We just made pressed flower handprints that was going around on social media for our parent Jesse and my mom's for Mother's Day of my stepkids and for their moms. So yeah, we did that. So that was a fun little like creative thing that I was able to do one night for a while.
That's special. That's a way of giving back. I like that.
Yeah.
So since we're on the note of art history, do you have any, locally or nationally, do you have any like museums that you're just like, I'd like going there? It's somewhere that is my place.
DIA is incredible, obviously. If you haven't been, you absolutely should. I think they've been ranked like the best art museum in the nation for a couple of years now. They are incredible. Take a couple days though, or schedule out certain sections to do because it's too big to do it all in one day. The Flint Institute is great, obviously. Saginaw Art Museum if you're local. Check them out. They're wonderful. And Creative 360 is very similar to us at the studio. So utilize all of us. Other than that, there's a place in Vegas. My brother lives in Vegas.
Okay.
And it is called Meow Wolf. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Never.
So it's not just like an art gallery or art museum, but it's like this very creative, immersive experience. It's almost like a mall of very interesting experiences. It's almost like you fall down the rabbit hole through Alice in Wonderland. It's incredible.
Immersive art. Yeah. It's a whole thing.
It is. It's incredible. And they have a couple different locations. I want to say one in Texas, one in Colorado, maybe. So yeah, there's a couple around the States, but I went to the Vegas one and it was so much fun. So check that out.
That is cool. So for the listeners out there, immersive art is artwork that is around you. It's like walking into a room and you walk into the artwork rather than like a visual, like 2D or 3D. Yeah, immersive artwork is you are a piece of it. So that's very cool. That is very cool. One of my favorites is the Salvador Dali Museum in Florida. Down in Florida. It's one of my favorites. So outside of the art space. Okay. When Meg gets to just be Meg, what are some things that you do outside of work, like removing that portion from your identity?
Yeah. We are big plant people. We have a lot of plants in our house, so we love to tend to them and do whatever we need to for them. I also have 2 stepkids, so I love to spend time with them and make memories with them. Now is the best time to do that. They're 17 and 8, but the 8-year-old, she's excited about everything and wants to do everything, and we just want to give her, whatever memories we can. And Jesse and I love to go on, different excursions and little adventures. I think this weekend we're going to go up to Traverse City for the weekend because it's one of the few weekends this summer that we don't have anything going so far. So checking out coffee shops, things like that. Very low key. We are not home very often. We are busybodies. We are busybodies.
So you enjoy being out and about. So the we is you and Jesse.
Yeah, okay. He loves being out and about. I go along. Well, it depends. I can be a homebody, but
he is not.
He is not. No.
So how does that work?
We compromise. We compromise a lot. I love to sleep in or just have like a lazy day. And he feels like it's a wasted day. So we just like compromise. One day we'll go out and do a bunch of things, and one day we'll just like hang out at home. So yeah, we compromise a lot. It works.
It works.
It works.
I can see you like sitting on the couch reading a book.
Yes.
And he's like outside doing yard work for some random reason. And you're just like, hey.
Hanging up pictures. You never know. He'll find something.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so then I guess I have to ask, how did you meet?
We met at the Saginaw Mall. I was working at the Coffee Beanery when the Coffee Beanery was still there. I was an undergrad, and he worked at Journeys, kitty corner across. He was, I think, assistant manager at the time, and so he would come and buy a lot of coffee.
I love that. Was your first date in the food court?
Not quite. It was at a show. He does music.
Okay.
So it was at a show. He
You're
invited
both
me out to a
people.
show. Yeah, he is more like performance, musical, and I'm more the visual. But yeah, we're a very creative household.
How does that, or does that spill over into his children?
Absolutely.
Tell me about that.
So Connor is 17, and he composed a piece that their high school symphonic band performed at their spring concert.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
He's incredible. He's so smart and so talented. And he loves music. He has taught himself how to play more instruments than I know the name of. And Cambria is incredibly musical as well. I think she takes after her dad very much in that sense, and thinks that it's so cool that he's in a band and that she gets to go see him perform on stage. And she loves the visuals too, I think, with all of her time spent at the studio the last couple of years. So
what does the dynamic look like between you and Jesse's children?
Great. I mean, we've been together for 5+ years now, and it took some adjusting, but I mean, I wouldn't have it any other way, and I hope they wouldn't want it any other way either. But yeah, we love to do as much as we can with them, and support them in whatever they want to do. And so seeing how much they've grown even is crazy.
Doesn't it feel unreal?
Yeah.
Like time flies by.
Mm-hmm. I want it to slow down.
So I started out the segment by talking about friendship and the reflection of that on someone.
Yeah.
Let's bring that question forward now. I wasn't necessarily planning on it, but now I'm curious. Because it sounds like you and Jesse do a lot of things together, right? Is there a correlation with like your friends or his friends, or do you both kind of blend together with that?
I would say more so blend. We both have our friends that we have almost like professionally, but then we have our personal friends, and they blend together really well. The last 3 years we've done a Friendsgiving, so like our friends all gather together in our little town home, and it's packed full with 30 people, and we just have the best time. So there's a lot of crossover, and it helps that we have a lot of the same interests creatively, so our friends blend together really well too.
So you have friends, he has friends, but you said something about professional.
Yeah, professional friends.
What do you mean?
I guess my professional friends I would call like Marlena and Maggie. I met them through my professional role. Granted, they are my personal friends as well.
Yeah.
But if it wasn't for my role, I probably wouldn't have met them, if that makes sense.
Do you think it's important for women to have friends in different avenues?
I think so. I think it, the things that I talk about with my best friend, Emily, who sent me the job for the studio, I wouldn't necessarily talk to Marlena about. So I think, having friends for different points in your life, I think is really important.
So how does one come about finding friends?
I don't know if I'm the best person to ask about that. I think just having an open mind.
Okay.
I think just having an open mind and being open to conversation, and just opening your heart to them. You don't have to spill the beans or, anything like that, but just finding a commonality between the two of you, like art history with us, and letting that flourish. Finding ways to continue to build upon that.
You said that Jesse, your boyfriend's friends, and your friends, they mingle pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
You said you get like 30 people out for Friendsgiving.
Mm-hmm.
I expect invitation come November.
Absolutely.
Throwing it out there.
Absolutely.
I'll bring the tamales.
Yes.
I got an applause. Have you ever seen like a mesh between values of your friends? Like maybe what are their core values and they don't blend well with Jesse's friends or within each other?
Not really. We don't really have a lot of, conflict or differences in that sense. Not that I've experienced, at least. Everyone really gets along. Everyone looks forward to it, which is me as a hostess. Like I want to make everyone happy, so it just makes me happy.
So on the other end of the spectrum of that question would be, do you ever see new friendships growing, and then how does that make you feel as you're kind of just letting, like you said, flourish, like letting that friendship flourish? Has that ever occurred?
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I would say, you're my newest friend. And I do foresee it continuing to flourish, but I guess I'm not sure how to answer that.
Wow. I gotcha. No, I'm just, you have a whole group of friends. Did new things come out of that, right? So in the last episode, I had said something along the lines of, you're empowered by who you bring around you, but also like you have the rights to build your village and who those people are.
Absolutely.
And you've done that. why do you say that that's important that you built your own village?
Well, for one, I have learned that although I don't have kids of my own, my stepkids, it takes a village. It takes a village, especially in the summertime and, when life gets busy. So finding those people that'll be there for you no matter what. For me, Jesse's sister is one of them. Jesse's sister and I have become so incredibly close the last several years. And, we're best friends, and she is a village in and of herself. She would do anything for anyone that she loves that needs her. She would do anything. So finding people that love that deeply and that passionately, friendship or otherwise, is incredible.
So as quickly as we say we can build our village, sometimes it's essential to kind of downsize it too.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever come across a situation where you've just kind of had to exit a friendship?
Yeah, it was more so like high school. So it's been a while, but yeah, when those values don't line up, the way that they used to, and you yourself have grown personally, and maybe either they haven't or they've grown a different direction, that's okay. It's just a matter of, letting that go and being thankful for what that was and learning from that and continuing on.
Being thankful for what it was
Mm-hmm.
and then move on.
Yeah.
So
thankful for what it was.
If we detach from a friendship or relationship or a job or a coworker or whatever it might be, do you see that as a gain or a loss?
I think it can be both, but I say more of a gain. You're learning, life lessons, or learning a lesson in general, that everything happens for a reason. So that lesson was learned for a reason, and that's okay. Maybe you guys will cross paths again. I mean, we always say life is so short, but we've got 70-ish years, give or take. So you never know.
You never know. Well, with modern medicine today.
Right. Like I'm only not even halfway there. So you never know.
That's fair. That's fair to say. So let's kind of intertwine our first topic and our second now.
Yeah.
With you being integrated into the art world, art history, gallery world, fundraiser world, nonprofit world, all of those things. Does that play a role into who is built into your village?
Yes. Like we've said before, we have a very creative village, and my best friend is also an art history major. She has her master's. She lives down in Detroit, but her and I are so close, and that has definitely bled into my village, my personal village. But that isn't a criteria by any means either. You don't have to be creative to be in our village, even though we're both very creative. It's one of those commonalities that we can really bond over and continue to grow.
Like-minded people. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I hear you on that one. So in our last few seconds here, what is a piece of advice that you would pass along to a woman of the Great Lakes Bay region?
It's been a common theme throughout here, but I think remembering that you have the power to curate your own reality. So in that artsy sense, you curate your own reality and your own village and your own life. So keep that in mind with every choice.
Wow. Well, thank you. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you. It went by so fast.
Well, thank you for passing along that great piece of advice that you can create your own life. So thank you. And that was Meg Koch, and that's what she said.